If you struggle to carry games from the offlane position, then this video is for you. In this video, I'll be teaching you to go from scores like this to consistently hitting scores like this. Note that this progress is from my 2k MMR student that has climbed to 3k MMR quickly by following the tips in this offlane guide. If you also want to learn how to carry your games and think like the 1% offlaner, keep watching. But before that, I would like to quickly introduce to you Dota 2 Pro Tracker, the top Dota 2 website to get your resources from about up-to-date meta builds and hero picks. If you are not already using Dota 2 Pro Tracker to learn more about the game, be sure to check it out. With that said, let's get back to the video. First, let's take a look into the starting items. There are generally two alternative builds, which are the stats build and the magic stick build. The magic stick build should be prioritized if playing into heroes that spam spells in lane with short to average cooldowns, such as Phantom Assassin and Leech. Otherwise, go with the stats build. Next, you will be going to your lane and prepare by the river for the bounty rune contest. Note that what you do here is dependent on your teammates. If your teammates decide to invade and contest for runes, then you will follow. Otherwise, either ignore the bounty rune if it is dangerous, or pick it up and go back to block the lane creeps in your lane. Once the lane begins, the moment you have enough to afford a Bracer and Tango, which is 300 gold, ship that out first as your first two items if you are going with the stats build. Alternatively, on the magic stick build, send out the 1 upgrade and the Tango once you can afford it. The extra Tango sent from the first courier usage is a safety net just in case you run out of Tangos, fast in lane and need to wait for the courier to come again later on with low health in lane. Now, the laning phase for an offlaner revolves heavily around keeping the lane frozen near your tower by good creep aggroing fundamentals and sustain. You will be constantly holding the lane close to your tower and punishing the enemy hero with your support anytime you see favorable traits. Favorable traits are defined as 2v1 fights early on with good positioning, higher health and level advantage. Of course, you need to communicate with your position 4 support through pings, text or voice whenever a good trait is identified. This is paired with constant sustaining through regen consumables and building up items over time. You will basically be repeating this process of holding the lane near the tower, punishing enemy heroes, and recovering with sustain until the point where you will become strong enough to kill the enemy safe laner and support under their tower. Once you identify that you are able to do that, you will then start pushing the lane into the enemy heroes to attempt to kick them out of lane and break their safe lane tower as early as possible. This will usually happen within the 5 to 10 minutes mark of the game, where you will hit a power spike on your hero, such as the level 6 for ultimate upgrades, or key items that allow you to tank and dive towers. Example of key items are such as Vanguard on tanky strength heroes, or Veil of Discord as an alternative on certain heroes like Death Prophet and Sand King for extra stats and kill potential. Another opening towards ending the laning phase for the offlaner are ganks from your teammates to help set up the push in your lane. In cases where you feel like you need extra assistance to pressure the enemy's safe lane tower and kick them out of lane, be sure to communicate to your teammates about this. You need to let your teammates know that you have hit your power spike for them to start moving towards your lane through gates or teleports. On the other hand, if you happen to lose your lane and are unable to push into the enemy safe lane and break their tower pre-10 minutes, then just retreat to the jungle camps around the lane, such as to the big camps or ancients if you're a hero like Tidehunter or Axe that can do ancients early on. Also, constantly pull the big camp at your lane for the lane to push back to your side to get safe farm. Keep sticking to the recovery route of farming in a losing lane until you are able to push forwards into their tower again. While farming, ensure that you are looking around the map for potential cleanup kills and good fights to take. Hey guys, before we continue with this video, I'd like to just take a quick moment to ask that you like, comment, share and subscribe to my videos and YouTube channel. Your support will really help me grow my channel. Also, you can check out my Fiverr page and Patreon if you're interested to work with me to improve your gameplay. Thank you. Majority of the time, you should be able to successfully break the enemy's safe lane tower. Once this happens, you will then transition into the early game phase, where heavy emphasis is placed on the concept of area control. This part of the game is where 90% or I would dare say 99% of offlaners, especially those in the lower ranks of below 5k MMR, always get wrong about. They will always think that once they have successfully taken one tier 1 tower down, it's time to focus on pushing another lane to move on to the next tier 1 tower and the next tower after that. I am here to clarify that this is a misconception because it defeats the core principle of what makes up Dota, which is map control, pressure, lead in terms of XP and net worth, understanding power spikes, and overall information of teammates and enemies around the map. In order to positively impact these core principles, you will need to constantly keep the enemy safe lane pushed in by killing the lane creeps. This is followed by planting wards all over the lane and enemy jungle in order to take away their resources and make plays happen, where you have vision while still being safe all the time. Think of your job as someone that is there to bully the enemy safe laner and constantly starve them of their own resources, which are their own jungle camps, and also mess with them if you are able to when the lane pushes back into them. You will be basically doing this over and over again by exhausting all resources in your area of control until a good fight happens nearby where you can connect to, such as through the enemy jungle into the mid lane, or a potential play or cleanup happens at another lane where you will teleport to. Once you have executed a cleanup or a good play, immediately look towards returning to the enemy's safe lane again to keep the pressure up and not let the enemy safe laner come back into the game. In cases where you have another core holding the enemy safe lane, then you can pick another lane that is open and hold that lane to keep it pushed in instead. Repeat this movement and farming pattern until you hit a key item timing that gives your hero a big power spike, such as a blink dagger or a black kimbar, normally within the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game. That is when you will start playing more around the team whenever your team groups up to make plays happen around the map. However, do not forego the concept of keeping lanes pushed. Ideally, you would still want to keep the lanes pushed into the enemy side before grouping up in order to make the enemies react to your actions by showing themselves to defend lanes. This is another common mistake whereby offlaners tend to give up the control they had set up early on by running all around the map looking for kills, but in turn giving up the pressure of pushing lanes and, worst of all, dying in fights and falling off. As a result, they start throwing away the lead they had created early on, and the game now becomes harder to recover from. So once you have your items, your actions will keep revolving around keeping the enemy lanes pushed in and grouping with the team, because now it is no longer about getting farm and speeding up item timings, but rather about starting fights and contributing much more to overall map pressure and presence. Do not go back to your own jungle camps and play backwards if your teammates are already playing forwards. This will just result in you playing as an AFK farming player rather than someone that contributes when strong. Alright, so you need to keep repeating the pattern of grouping to team, pushing lanes in, repeatedly moving forwards with your team, where a successful fight or high ground push is attempted to close the game. In summary, the offlaner's heaviest emphasis lies on playing the lane well and occupying the enemy's safe lane and jungle after the laning phase ends. You would then need to hold your fort and stand your ground until you hit your item timing that gives your hero a huge power spike, which will enable you to contribute much more to fights. If you can nail the laning phase and early game phase down consistently, I am confident that you will find yourself climbing the ranks really quickly on the offlane role. I hope this video has been helpful for you offlaners, and also to those of you that are looking into understanding the offlane role more. Thank you for watching, see you guys in the next one.